Hello and welcome to In Conversation, a dublab podcast where each week we will bring you interviews from the dublab radio archives.
Right now, in the place, we have MJ Lallo. How are you?
Da-da-da-da-da. Hi, I'm doing great. How about you? This is such a cool place. I'm sitting up here near the Santa Monica Boulevard, and it's a wild-looking place. Yeah, you'll have to come down and see it.
Thank you. Thanks for making your way down here and
down
joining
from
us
the
today.
valley. Oh my God!
Yeah, it's good to have you here, and we connected with you through the great folks at Sceance Centre, which has been a real nice addition to the landscape of
Brandon and Naomi, fabulous people.
Yeah,
fabulous
record labels out there doing.
They've got some great
things.
stuff. I hear their stuff on Pandora all the time too.
Yeah,
the different releases that I like.
Staying busy. And speaking of staying busy, you've been staying busy for many years doing your thing. I want to talk. We're gonna dive into it, but I feel like first we should just give people a touch of music so that we can kind of place them sonically in the world that we're going to explore today. We're gonna play. This is the title song from the Sceance Centre 12-inch Star Child Going Home. And Star Child Going Home was a piece that was originally released on your Voices from the Night Sky album. Tell us a little bit about where this came from briefly, and then we'll come back after this piece and just kind of dive into...
Okay. Well, I composed a lot for NASA, and so I got to do a lot of work with space footage. And that's how I actually developed more of my own vocal styling, because they'd say, okay, MJ, there's a whirling galaxy, and what have you got on your synth? And I'd go... Oh, God, I don't know. Because back then, the Korg Poly 6, you'd have to turn knobs for days to get that kind of stuff. And I said, yeah, I said that to the engineer. I said, just turn on the mic. And he said, okay, with mic for what? I said, for my voice. Are you sure? Just, no, we've got your synth up. I said, no. And I just look at this thing and go... And they go... Okay, then. Next, Acid Rain. Oh, okay, Acid Rain. So it was a fun time in my life working with them, and I also got connected to the Vatican Observatory, and I had to do things for the Sistine Chapel, and that was more about space, too, because they were getting ready to develop a telescope in Arizona to move to Rome. And it was interesting because in the documentary, the guy actually says, asks him, say, well, why do you want to, this is very expensive. I mean, why do you people want to do it? And there's a room there of the different people that, in the Vatican, these priests and so forth. And they look at each other and they say, because we only know 1/10 of God. So I said, oh boy, we get to see another 10th.
Yeah. You mentioned this work with NASA and basically traveling to outer space fueled purely by your voice. And Star Child Going Home definitely has the space sound to it. Voice, and I'm imagining some electronic manipulation.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of... you do some of those and you blend them together mainly with a Boss foot pedal.
Wow.
SPX90, that was a toy. I'm trying to remember why I picked it up, but I went to Guitar Center and I said, yeah, I want to, try that Boss foot pedal. And he said, okay. Oh, you didn't bring your guitar. That's okay. I'll bring you one. I said, nope, I didn't. I don't play guitar. I just brought my mic. And he said, what? So that's when I started, doing various things with it, experimenting with that and finding out what I could do with that and how I could loop that through the SPX90. And the other thing, because we're talking back in the 80s, I think it was called a Digitech something, which would also give me harmonics.
kind of like a rack effects processor.
Right. I don't think they make them anymore. SPX90, I don't think you can get that anymore either. But
well, what you can get is Star Child Going Home. Star Child Going Home 12-inch just came out on Sceance Centre, and yeah, such a great jam. Tell us a bit about where that was coming from. You mentioned that you had some different synthesizers in your Armada at that point.
That was basically a DX7 that I used for that, and then it had some great sounds. As you can hear, the xylophone really sounds real. That's when they started making, not just a synthesizer with some good chordal sounds, but they said, we can do other instruments too. And it's now, of course, my God, they can sound like anything. And then you get a whole choir, and then they put the choir in the synthesizer, right? So I wanted to add that. And to me, that was it was a fun thing. I got a call from the Philippines because dance, the music, that was a quick dance piece that I did, got up to number 2 on the dance charts. Had somebody heard it in the Philippines and said, we need some music for basically a show. And they said it's going to be a fashion show, and it's a drag fashion show with guys. I said, I'm in. So I did that. That's part of what I did that for.
And you mentioned dance. So this is the piece under pseudonym Joy St. James.
Yeah, I had to go under that because there was Lillo, then there was the Jolo group, and my people that were doing that album, they said, no, there's too many. The Lallo thing isn't going to go, though I was called Lallo all the time in San Francisco, and since I was even little.
Were you immersed in a scene of kind of dance music?
Because I was composing for a whole bunch of stuff and trying to think about how I met Leo Fapriani. Anyway, he said, let's do a dance tune. And I said, oh, okay. And so I wrote it. He liked it. We produced it. We got some people to do it. And it was so disco down at that point. And like Sylvester was big. He was playing in all the clubs. And I said, okay, let's do it. And it got to go crazy, particularly in England, but also in San Francisco. So I got to go to all these clubs, sing it. Went on at noon. Went on at midnight. And everybody was just loaded, right?
The other 12.
Yeah. And so everybody danced to it. It was great. I got to sing at in front of 80,000 people at the Gay Day March in San Francisco, which is huge. So San Francisco was a great scene to be in for dance at that point.
Were you doing full kind of live sets of multiple songs, or were you coming on and doing kind of a feature tune?
I would just come on and do dance.
Incredible. And so you've got this dance sound, and then somebody hears into the Philippines, it prompts the kind of next step, and you're working on Star Child Going Home.
Yeah.
Star Child Going Home came out in 2012 on the Voices from Night Sky, but I'm sure this was recorded much earlier. This is 80s as well?
It was, yeah. Okay.
So you're recording that one. But you're making these dance jams. You're also simultaneously making kind of much more kind of ambient music, new age almost, sounds. We'll play a bit of that in a minute. But this is also not your primary career in a way. Your primary career has become and was for a long time voiceover work.
Well, actually, no, music was primarily it until I sang on a wonderful film called Play in the Fields of the Lord, starring Kathleen Bates, John Lithgow, Daryl Hannah. It was amazing. And I walked out of that session at the Coppola studio in San Francisco, and this gal said, oh, boy, that sure was fun. And I said, oh, my God, I used to get in trouble for doing voices in school. And she said, yeah, I'm studying. I said, what? You can study crazy voices. So that was 1993, I think it was. And I just, started going over to see Voice Tracks West and starting to learn that. So that's my that's when I started that. But the
So
music
MJ
was always there.
Productions was more of kind of a composition, a music house for
Right.
film and TV and
Right.
anything else.
And then we swung into, well, let's just add it all up and do
Yeah.
everything. Because if you're a singer, you should be able to do voiceover. You may not want to. I mean, there's millions of singers that don't, but a lot of people that are singers, you learn to manipulate their voice and learn to do all sorts of things with it, and then they go into, well,
If I could do a voice, if I can talk this high and sing this high, then I can be a voice, yeah, for Disney or somebody.
When did you start really kind of understanding the potential of vocals? You mentioned that you were, you making silly voices, coming up and getting in trouble for them. Has the voice always kind of been this tool or this kind of source of power and potential for you?
yeah, I think so. I just was always outspoken and always, 4 planets in Aquarius. It's kind of hard to be a natural person. And I just remember one of the first comedy routines I did was a bunch of kids at the table talking to their parents, and everybody loved it, so I ended up being president of the student body at George Washington High School because I was funny, and again in junior high because I was funny. They would say, okay, then they put me on the mic in the morning. They'd say, okay, so you're the head girl, so you make the announcements. They'd say, okay, all you guys with your shirt tails out, the principal really doesn't like it, so whatever. I mean, put it somewhere. And they'd say, oh, cut her off, turn the mic off. So I had a lot of fun. Still got in trouble even as president of the student body, but.
I mean, the voice is a very human thing, and maybe the most kind of connective. I mean, you can connect with people through music for sure. I mean, that goes very deep. But to be able to have the blending of the two, when did you start to incorporate your voice, kind of to use your voice as the primary instrument for your music? Because a lot of your work, the channeled voice, which we'll hear a piece from in a minute, it's the voice is also forming some of what would be the traditional instruments as well, the cello or the trumpet or whatever. When did you start to kind of use your voice as a musical form beyond singing?
Well, I actually had a person give me a trumpet, and her boyfriend was shot in New York going through the park, and she said, I want you to have this. And I was like, wow, this is what. She came to one of the, when I was playing in a club, and she gave me this beautiful silver trumpet, and so I picked it up, and I was messing around with it a little bit, and then I thought, wait a minute. I can just do it with my mouth. I'll give it back to her. And so that I think that was part of it. And then I think also that as a kid, very young, I grew up with my grandmother, and we're Italian, Southern Italian. So I like to imitate my grandma. And so I just like to imitate all kinds of things and sounds. I thought it was fun. And even when my dad said, who was a musician, and he said, I want you to play violin when I was a little kid. And I thought, I hate the violin. I mean, I just couldn't sit under my chin. And I was like, So I'd be in my bedroom singing like it and fool him. So I said, Dad, let's do the clarinet. How's
the other
that?
shoe drops when you have to do the rehearsal, the public rehearsal in front of the recital in front of people. So the Channel Voice is an album from 1988, self-released, and then it was reissued last year by Full Spectrum Records. You released a tape, and the name kind of says a lot. The Channel Voice. Mm-hmm. Where did this record come out of? What was on your mind, and what were you up to at the time?
I was up to that definitely experimental time. I mean, I thought, okay, dance music is fun, it's cute, but that's not. I don't want to run around in clubs and jump around. And
you want to play at noon instead of midnight.
Yeah,
the other
right.
12.
So I just kept experimenting, and like I said, I picked up the Boss thing, and I said, "Guy, I can actually start to set up a like." And and then on top of that, and just keep singing with myself like I had a whole choir. And it just became so intriguing to me that I just kept doing it. And then, like I said, things started coming to me like the Vatican and NASA, where I could use it. So that kept me experimenting with it and running with it. And then I just went, and then I actually got called for a lot of theater jobs. And so some of the channel voice came out of working on theater pieces that people were doing and dance companies.
Yeah. There's a great clip if you go to your YouTube channel, but also on Sceance Centre. Under your artist page, there's kind of a collage, various performances from the 80s, and there's a dance piece choreography, and you're there live on stage performing live as this kind of contemporary dance is happening.
Right.
And it works really well. Was that improvised, or was that
some of that was I worked out with them a little bit so I could see what they were doing. And then from that we got a sense of it. Because I knew some of what their movements would be, but I said for the most part, here's some things that we played with. We did a couple rehearsals, but then just by being, I said, if I can be on stage with you, which usually you're not, it's the dancers, I can just walk. So when they go, when they're running, I just mimicked what their bodies were doing, and so it was fun because it was pretty much improvised, though I knew some of the movements.
So you're in this world. People are recognizing that you've got a powerful voice and you're doing innovative, creative things with it. And so you record this record. Who was your audience at that point for this music? Were you distributing this yourself? Were you passing this out as a demo? What was the kind of intended audience for the channeled voice? Well,
I thought because New Age was really coming in at the time, Brian Eno, Enigma, The Art of Noise, that I loved. And I thought, this is, wow. And so I started getting my stuff out to the different record companies. And it was weird because they said, honey, New Age is not really vocals. And I thought, what? But it really was more synth, Vangelis, what he did. I mean, it's like, I realize it's synth, but I said, no, we're not gonna put vocals on it, and you're not singing a song anyway. It's all. So that just kind of blew my mind. I said, I'm going to put out my own cassette, and I'm going to go perform and put myself out there. And so the clip that you see is also me singing at the San Francisco. It's a huge arts fair, and they would hire me for things like that to come in on stage because I could do it live, and people would come up and watch it and go, whoa, what's...
So 30 years later, you were proven right because the channel voice was reissued, right, and new kind of ears are coming to your work. Let's put our ears on this work, and let's put this work into our ears.
Can I say this real quickly, how it happened? I get a call, and this guy says, hey, are you Lallo? And I said, wow, because I'm MJ in L.A., because that's the name of my company. I can't go out as my last name. And I said, yeah. And he said, okay, did you do the channeled voice? I said, yeah. And I said,
who's asking?
Yeah, I was at, what do you, what's going on, dude? And he says, I was at my friend's place who has, I guess it was a recording studio. And he said, he had this old dusty box. And he said, I said, what the hell's in there? And he said, oh, a bunch of old cassettes. Sometimes I like to play them. And he said, he pulled out mine and said, I like to take this one. And he took it, and he said, I love it. Can I put it out? So Andrew Weathers put it out, and his partner, Andrew Marino. And I was like, wow. They came and visited me. Gretchen, who did the artwork for it, we changed the artwork. And I said, I said, it's kind of spatial. I would definitely put a little avatar and a Jupiter. I have Jupiter Rising, put that on it. And she just did a great job. Yeah, they all just did a great job for me. And then I think that's how Sceance found that work and wanted to work with it.
So if you're not lucky enough to find the original release in a dusty box somewhere, you can visit Full Spectrum Records, who reissued the channeled voice. Can you kind of paint a picture of the space that you're recording this in and what you were kind of visualizing at the moment, or the intention of the piece?
I was just in my own apartment doing all this stuff, and then I did go. I was at Full Moon recording. I went down there and. I would play with it there, and then I'd get it, and then I go down there and do the final masters.
Yeah.
And that was, that's a great. They let you come in at midnight, and you could get a really cheap rate. So maybe some of this came out of the night sky, right?
Yeah.
Like, Voices from the Night Sky is what I ended up calling that second album, because it was like, oh, I gotta go. Oh, look what time it is. It's 11:30. I got to get down to the Full Moon Bay and get down there and work at that studio.
With those kind of pieces, were you starting with a theme, or there's a variety? We'll hear some of the more upbeat pieces, but there's a variety of these very spacious kind of works, more kind of ambient sounding works, as well as some upbeat things. When you're going
I like mixing them. But also I just loved Brazil 66, just Astro Gilberto and Ayarto. I went and saw them in San Francisco when they performed, and I actually knocked on the door after the performance, and this big guy comes out and he says, yeah, he's your bodyguard. And I said, would you tell her I just love her music, and I'd like to give her my cassette?
Flora
Purim, yeah. And
who's the wife of
her husband. And so he said, just a minute. He took the cassette and he walked in and he came back out and he said, okay, you can go see her. And I said, okay. And I just told them how much I loved their work. And they were eating, before the performance or something. And she said, okay, Lala, I listen. Okay, all right. I said, all right. Well, about 6 months later, they were back in San Francisco. And I went back, I said, can I talk to, I gave her my cassette. And the guy said, oh. And he said, just a minute. He went in, he came back. I said, yeah, she'll see you. I walked back in and she said, oh, Lalo, hi. And I said, hi, blah, blah, blah. And she says, Lalo, I have one thing to say to you. I said, what? And she's, keep doing what you are doing, girl. And
now get out of here.
They're really sweet. They were just amazing.
Well,
I did. I did what she told me to do. Keep doing what I'm doing.
Can strip it down to the basics, and whether it's Aerto or Flora, or there's many artists who understand that you can have all the tools and the tricks in the world, but the human voice itself is such a powerful instrument, and when used creatively, it can really travel far. With these kind of pieces in the channel voice, were these usually kind of live, improvised, one-take things, or were they recorded and edited and layered as well? What was the kind of recording process like?
Well, when I would work for a while with a drum machine. I love the little TR-707, and I'd say, okay, what is this making me feel? So obviously I had to stay with something. Yeah. When I would do something more freeform, it was great, because then I could and keep adding the levels by working with the two processors that I had. So giving myself a beat meant I had to lay something in. I could, so that the songs that are more like that are a little bit more fashioned from the Latin, some of the Latin feel.
Yeah.
And just the shaman's dance and blues for Buddha were just straight on done, because I would just think of Buddha and I would go, well, what do I want to sing to Buddha, And so it was, a lot of it was because I'd also been a poet younger in life, and it was kind of a mixture of that, sort of like what's the poetry in music, because there's poetry, in music too. Everybody has to rhyme, maybe not so much now, but boy, look at the rap. I mean, rap is it's poetry. So that kind of, I would just go, okay, I don't want to, I don't want to rhyme it. I just want to just be vocal. And then there were times when I said, well, let me just sing something up and fun and happy, like some more of the Latin stuff. And so that brought that out of me. And I wanted to have an album that had more than just the ambient kind of sound on it.
And were you sharing this with kind of commercial clients that you were connecting with through MJ productions to kind of have this calling card and say, this is the range of what I can do with my voice and with these instruments.
Right.
And, you know, that's
how I got NASA, and that's how I got the Vatican Observatory, and some other things. But I mean, I composed for Levi's too, you know. So then we had to have that pop thing going, and I've always enjoyed jazz. So yeah, I mean, I would just get these offers, and I go, yeah, I can do that. I mean, my word is, yeah, I can do that.
That's a good word. Well, if people want to have their own experiences, you can close your eyes, you can visualize along to the vocalizations of MJ Lallo, and you can visit creatingvoices.com. That is MJ's homepage, her site, her home world, and you can also enjoy all this music that is being re-released through Sceance Centre, Full Spectrum Records as well. We're going to leave people with a touch of another piece from the channeled voice. This one is called Gabriel's Horn. And MJ, thanks for being here. Thanks for doing what you do, all the creative music.
Thank you. You're an excellent interview. I'm having a great time here. You answered some great questions, and I love that. Appreciate it.
Much.
In Conversation was produced by Dublab, a nonprofit radio station broadcasting live from Los Angeles since 1999. Sound editing and theme song by Matea Baim. For more programming, visit dublab.com, and thank you for listening.